Hello everyone, this is Balaji KS signing in for Brain Smart Labs. In our previous session, we just introduced you to Oracle database and made you create the first table with values inside. You all must be wondering what are these create command, insert command and select command what we used in our yesterday's session. We will be studying everything in detail today, wherein we will be doing check chaka check, autopsy of our first SQL table. Now before we jump into today's topic, let us take a quick recap on what we did in our previous session. In our previous session, your first SQL query, we saw a database is a software present inside of a computer which helps the user to store and organize his data, wherein any valuable information which needs to be stored by a user for his later use can be termed as the data. We saw the 4 key operations what we perform inside our database, that is create, read, update and delete, wherein to perform these operations we initially had softwares that were belonging to DBMS category whose full form is Database Management System. After DBMS then came a new type called RDBMS, which meant Relational Database Management System, and this was more advanced compared to its predecessor and more efficient than DBMS. After all this theory part, we then started to download and install Oracle database into our PC, and after this we made some configuration by creating a new workspace by name BrainSmart. These configurations are very important for us to work with, and while doing these configurations we gave a common password for all, which was Tiger, wherein all letters here need to be in lowercase alphabets. Then in the command prompt we created a new table by name chitchat corner, described the table what we had created, inserted 4 rows inside the table and displayed the table with all its content. Please note, while typing anything in SQL as code, it is a common practice for all to type everything in caps, as it is an industry standard convention what we all need to follow. Make sure you type everything in uppercase alphabets in SQL, as by not following these conventions in your company, your job is at huge risk. In today's class, we break the code and understand each statement what we tried to execute in yesterday's session. In our yesterday's session, we saw 4 different commands what we commonly use in SQL. First was the create command, second was the describe command, third was the insert command, and fourth was the select command. All were in fact simple and basic commands, and to understand them, first we need to understand their syntax.
Okay.
So what are we waiting for? Let us start understanding the syntax for all 4 commands, starting with number 1, the create command.
Syntax for create command in Oracle.
The following is the syntax for create command in SQL. Please pay your full attention over here, else you will repent it later, as I am not going to repeat this topic one more time. The notes what you make here will help you till the last day of your technical interview. In our create command, we have to type create space table and then mention the table name to its right. The table name what we give here can be anything, but for our previous example, we named the table as chitchat corner. In the next line, make sure we open a small parenthesis to the left, and inside this we start typing all our column declarations. In the first column declaration, as you can see, towards the left we have the column name, and towards the right we have to declare the data type of our column name along with its size, that is over here. On the left, that is our column name, the name can be anything like serial number, chat name, price in rupees, etc. Please make sure you design the table with appropriate column names, which gives a meaning to your columns present inside your table. On the right of your column declaration, we have to mention the data type of the column and compulsorily mention its size. The data type of a column can be number of size 5, varchar of size 20, varchar 2 of size 20, char of size 2, date with or without any format, and last but not the least, it can also be a blob of size 15 megabit, wherein inside this data type we can store any large data file, for example an image. Always mention the size of the data type using the separate set of small parentheses to its right. Please make sure you choose an appropriate data type with an appropriate size or an appropriate format while you declare a column.
Okay.
If you do any mistake over here, it is always advised by your project managers to erase the table completely from the memory and once again recreate the whole thing during our software development process. My advice to you is, why do mistakes in the first place and then correct it here and there? First plan your project thoroughly and then create the table all at once. Your database architecture planning is the foundation for you to start with any of the project.
Yes!
Just how you added the previous column, you can add multiple columns and its description below one another separated by a comma. Suppose we want only 3 columns in a table. The third column description will not have a comma present at last. Now in the last line, after declaring all these columns, it is mandatory for us to close the column declarations with a small parenthesis and end our statement with a semicolon. Once you use the above syntax to create any table, a new table will be created as per your description inside our Oracle database. Please note, you cannot create 2 tables with the same name inside a same database.
Oh, really?
Some students will try to create the same create command twice. Of course, it is not possible. Reason being, 2 tables of same name cannot coexist in a single workspace.
Oh no!
Few students while creating a table will do some tiny mistakes and after creation of their table, they will start realizing, ಅಯ್ಯಯ್ಯೋ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ನಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದು etc. If you are a student who fall in that category, please do not worry. I will teach you a simple command to erase a table completely from the memory.
Okay!
To erase the previously created table on your SQL prompt, just type drop space table name and in the end the statement with a semicolon. Kaboom! As you execute this command, your previously created table will be wiped off from the memory for you to restart creating a new table by the same name once again.
Yes!
More about drop command I will teach you when time comes.
Oh.
For now, it is time to analyze the code what we have written to create the table chit chat corner. Take a look.
Analyzing the table chit chat corner.
As you can clearly see on the right, we have declared the table name and below that we have our first column as serial number with an underscore in between. If in case your table name or column name has 2 or more words, make sure you separate them with an underscore and not space. Well, if you provide a space instead of an underscore in between, the command will not be received properly by Oracle and you will get a strong error message below. Just below the column serial number, we have another column by name chat name and below that we have another column which is our last column and it is of name price in rupees. On the right to your column name, we have the data type and its size mentioned here and here, which precisely describes what data your columns will be holding. As you can notice, the table name chit chat corner is separated by an underscore and not with a space in between as it is completely forbidden. Likewise, on every column we have a column name whose name has an underscore in between but not a space to separate these words. You can also observe the last column over here does not have a comma in the end as the column declaration here has ended at this place. On the contrary, the other column declarations above the last declaration need a comma to be placed compulsorily to the end, else the Oracle would treat it as an SQL error. Make sure the last line of our command is properly ended by closing a small parenthesis which was opened earlier. The create statement here has ended with grace, all with the help of a semicolon in the end. Now as you press enter to run your command, the SQL Plus software will receive it as an order. The table here will be created at the back end, letting you know with the help of a message,
Syntax for describe command.
DESE table name can also be written as describe table name, helps us to describe the table what is already existing inside our Oracle database. For example, on your SQL prompt, to describe the table chit chat corner, we need to type DESC chit chat corner or we need to type describe chit chat corner. Bro, One doubt. Will both DESC command and describe command act in the same way? What is the actual difference between them? Difference illa, mannangatinu illa. Both DESC and describe command are one and the same in SQL.
Really?
For example, in your SQL prompt, if you type DESC chitchat corner and press enter, you will receive a beautiful description of your table. Whereas if you type describe chitchat corner and press enter, you will receive the same beautiful description that is over here. But here there is a word of caution. Never use DESC command or describe command on a table which is not existing inside your database. Suppose you apply describe command on a random table which does not exist, you will get a solid SQL error stating object random table does not exist blah blah blah. Guru, create table okay, describe table also okay. Please teach us the syntax for insert command, no? I have many doubts in it. Doubt bere barutta nim talegalige. Partha? Take a look.
Syntax for insert command.
For writing an insert statement, we need to type insert space into space table name in the first line. In the next line, we need to type values and then we have to open a small parenthesis. Here we need to type in the first value corresponding to the first column inside our table. Next we need to type in the second value corresponding to the second column inside our table. Likewise, we have to type in the third value corresponding to the third column inside our table. Similarly, till we reach the last value which corresponds to the last column of our table, we need to type in the values separated by a comma. Now after you type in the last value, it is mandatory for us to close the small parenthesis and in the end our statement with the help of a semicolon. Using this syntax, we can now insert any number of rows to our table which we did in our previous session as shown over here. Dude, in insert command we have no doubt as it has a clear syntax. But as a humble request, can you type and show the output please? ನೀ ಏನು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ನಿಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬೇರೆ ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ ಟೇಕ್ ಅ ಲುಕ್. In our SQL prompt, first type the word insert and then type the word into followed by the table name. In our case it is chitchat corner. In the next line, after you press enter, type in the word values and this is the time you open a small parenthesis as directed over here. Type in the first value as 01 which corresponds with the first column of our table, that is serial number. Now separated by a comma, type in the next value as Pani Puri in single quotes as this value corresponds with the second column whose column name is chat name. Again separate the previous value with a comma and type in the numerical value as 18 which again corresponds to our third column whose column name is price in rupees. Now close the small parenthesis here as the table has only 3 columns. In the end, add a semicolon without which your command is incomplete. Press the enter key as you finish and now you will receive a message. The message says one row inserted, which in simple words mean one row is inserted into your table. Like this, we have to add new records for Masal Puri, Bel Puri and Save Puri into our table chitchat corner by using the commands as shown here. Please note, for all the text string values you feed, it should be enclosed with a single quote or a double quote.
Oh.
Yes, you can enclose these values inside double quotes, but tomorrow there may be a chance that you may write these commands inside your Java program.
Okay.
In your Java program, as you know, a double quote will relate to starting or ending of a new string. By using double quotes inside your query, it will cause a hell lot of a problem as you have to keep changing the query every time here and there.
Oh no.
So as a teacher, I promptly suggest you use only single quotes to enclose a string value inside our SQL as it is a majorly accepted industry standard convention.
That is correct.
Okay, here comes the most important command in our entire SQL, the select command.
Syntax for select command in SQL.
Select command is basically used to retrieve and display what is already present in your table. You can use it in various combinations which I will be teaching you in my further classes.
Okay.
But for now, if you want to query all the data inside our SQL table, you need to follow the syntax below. Type in the statement as select space star space from space table name, and in the end the statement with a semicolon. And yes, we can give any valid table name which is already existing inside our SQL database. For example, if you type in select star from chitchat corner semicolon and press enter, the database will fetch all the data inside your chitchat corner table in an orderly fashion as you have inserted. Here the asterisk symbol, or what you call as star, represents a shortcut to display all columns in our table. As a result, and as you can notice, we are displaying all the values inside our columns which are currently present in our table chitchat corner. And that completes the syntax for all the commands what I showed you yesterday. In your interview, if you agree that you know the subject till here, they will grind you here and there, as most of the computer science students will have this syllabus in their college. The problem with you is you will be knowing the concept, but when they ask you a question, you will answer ta-ta-ta-pa-pa-pa. Reason is either you are not confident with the answer, or you do not know how to communicate this answer to your interviewer. In Brain Smart Labs video series, we don't take things for granted, but instead teach you all concepts with proper definitions.
Nice.
By giving you all these definitions, if at all they ask these questions in your interview, I promise you will not stammer here and there, but you will confidently answer all these questions with full marks guaranteed.
Yes!
All you need to do is make proper notes while watching these videos so that you can revise these topics anytime before you go to an interview.
Okay.
Well, if you don't maintain proper notes, I am telling you no only, not me, ಆ ದೇವರು ಬಂದ್ರು ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಕಾಪಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. So start making notes of everything as I start with my first interview question, what is a table?
What is a table in SQL?
A table is a place where data is stored and organized in the form of rows and columns. The below illustration you see is a simple design of a table where you have columns which are separated vertically and rows which are separated horizontally. Example for a table is the chitchat corner table. Here you can see both rows and columns are perfectly displayed. Next question is, what is a column?
What is a column in SQL?
Columns in SQL are vertical categories present in a table which are also known as fields in real life. In this illustration below, the data in the table can be categorized into 4 columns. The first column here stores the data only related to this column. The second column here will store the data only related to this column. The third column here will store the data only related to this column. And the fourth column here will store the data only related to this column. Like this, a table in SQL can have n number of columns where each column will store data only related to that data type. For example, in our chitchat corner table, we have declared 3 columns, one which contains the serial numbers, the other column contains the name of the chat items, and the last column here is dedicated to store the price of the chat item here in rupees. Next question is, what is a row?
What is a row in SQL?
Rows in SQL are horizontal entities present in a table which are also called as records. They contain the actual data for every field in a table. In the illustration below, we have a table with 4 rows, which means it contains only 4 records. The first row contains data pertaining to the first record. The second row contains data pertaining to the second record. The third row contains data pertaining to the third record. And the fourth row contains data pertaining to the fourth record. Like this, a table in SQL can contain n number of rows where each row represents data pertaining to that record in all fields. For example, in your table chitchat corner, the first row contains the record pertaining to Pani Puri, the second row contains the records pertaining to Masal Puri, the third row contains the records pertaining to Bel Puri, and the fourth row contains records pertaining to Sev Puri. So that finishes the interview questions related to today's class.
Okay.
Now you tell me, you have any doubt in this session? Guru, I have one doubt. You wrote the syntax for insert query, right? In that, while inserting values, you gave everything in order. Now what happens if we change the order? Is there any way to insert values in random order? Very good question. There is not just one way, but there are 4 ways to insert values using our insert statement. You know, 4 ways ah? Yes, take a look.
Different ways to insert values.
In SQL, there are 4 ways you can insert values using our insert command. The first way is by providing the column names in our insert statement. The second way is by omitting the column names in our insert statement. The third way is by neglecting a few columns while inserting the values. And the fourth way is by changing the order of columns while inserting your values. To understand all these ways, let us see 4 different examples wherein each example illustrates each way of inserting values.
Insertion number 1. By providing the column names.
In this method, we will be providing all column names along with values for each insert statement. The syntax for the same is as follows. The first line, insert into table name, will have no change. But in the next line, inside of a small parenthesis, we have all column names written one after the other, separated by a comma. Below these column names, we have mentioned the values inside a separate set of small parentheses, and here again, these values are separated one after the other with the help of a separator comma. Please note, while using this syntax, make sure the above column order matches with the below values in order. If the values given below does not match with the order of the above column names, please remember you will get a strong SQL error if you run that code. If you are asking me to give an example for the same, here is a small illustration for you. Insert into chit chat corner where serial number matches with the value 01, chat name matches with the value Pani Puri in single quotes, and price in rupees matches with the numerical value 18, as you can see over here. Like this, for each insert statement, we have to write all column names and it is 100% valid. But my question is, will you personally want to write such a long query for every single insert statement? Ayyo devro, bitpudu. It is too long. Is there any shorter version to insert? That brings me to type number 2, omitting the column names while inserting.
Insertion number 2. Omitting the column names in our insert statement.
In this way of insertion, we omit all column names inside our insert command. This is the most commonly used way for insertion by all SQL developers. If you are asking me the syntax for this method, it is insert into table name in the first line, and in the next line we have to write values keyword followed by actual values enclosed inside small parentheses. Please note we have used a proper order while typing these values, as this order should match with the order which is stated during the designing stage of our table. If you take a look at this example for the following way of insertion, we have used the command insert into chit chat corner in the first line, and in the next line we have written values keyword followed by the data to be inserted present in a proper order. Please note the order of values which are being inserted are defined in the declaration of our table chit chat corner. Next method is neglecting a few columns.
Insertion number 3. Neglecting a few columns.
In this method of insertion, we can skip inserting values for a few fields whose column does allow null values. This way of insertion will be used if you do not want to insert a few values to some columns in that particular insert statement. If you observe the syntax for the same, as you can see, we are inserting the values only for column 2, column 5 and column 6, and the remaining columns here are completely neglected. If you can notice the last line where we are feeding the values, we have written only the corresponding value for the corresponding column which is mentioned above. An example for the same can be seen right away. Here in this statement, we have decided to insert only 2 values for our table chit chat corner. The first value will be chat name and the second value will be price in rupees. Please note, in the statement we have skipped inserting the first column value, which is nothing but serial number, even though the column was defined during our table creation. If in case you want to neglect a few columns while using your insert statement, you have no other option in SQL other than this way. Next method is changing the order.
Insertion number 4. Changing the order of columns.
In this way, we can literally change the order of values to be inserted into the columns in any random order we choose in our insert statement. Any random order? How can we do that? It is very simple. In the given syntax below, as you can see, first we have mentioned column number 3, next we have mentioned column number 1, and then we have mentioned column number 2. Now while feeding the values after the values keyword, first we type in the values for column 3, next we type in the values for column 1, and then we have to type in the value for column 2. If you want to change the order of values which is to be inserted, you have to follow this way of insertion. But here there is a catch. In whatever order you insert the values, they will be inserted into our database in the default order which was mentioned during the creation of our table.
Really?
If you look at the example for the following method of insertion, first we have mentioned the column price in rupees, and so while feeding the values, we are maintaining the same order as mentioned above. Likewise, if you observe over here, second we have mentioned the column serial number, and so while feeding the values, we are maintaining the same order as mentioned above. For the third value, as you can see, the third column mentioned here is chat name. And here again, we are maintaining the same order as mentioned above. If not, we will be getting a strong SQL error. Please note, whatever order you feed the values in, the database will choose the original order while inserting it into your database. Now if you mismatch here and there with the data type of values being inserted, you will get a strong SQL error stating values mismatched. Guru, what are the data types we generally use in Oracle or MySQL? Can you throw some gyan on that? Oh sure. In SQL programming, we have many data types defined.
Oh really?
Almost all types are incorporated in both Oracle and MySQL. But as programmers, we generally use 5 types more frequently. That is char, varchar, number, date and blob. In MySQL, there is no data type called number. But instead, we have 2 separate data types which are in use. They are int for whole number values and decimal for floating point values. More on this I will explain you when time comes. For today, this much is enough.
Okay.
And that completes our today's session 02 autopsy of your first table in SQL. Do text us your doubts on WhatsApp if you have any, so that we can solve it for you. Remember, you understanding the subject is our topmost priority.
Yes!
Do refer your friends to buy this series on our website www.brainsmartlabs.com, which will help us in making more and more videos for you. Until then, this is Balaji Kaya signing out, and you know what to do. Muchkond query madi. Bye bye.